Hello to all Cinemaster lovers. Hope you enjoy watching. Let's get started. The movie begins in a strange time. During this era, humans lived peacefully, without wars, in harmony and safety. This peace was thanks to the reign of King Zeus, a just king who ruled humanity on Earth. Zeus had a son named Ares, but over time things changed as Ares grew older. Ares wanted to take control of his father's kingdom by destroying it with hatred and evil. He decided to wage war against his father to seize power. After a fierce battle, Zeus died, but before he passed away, he created a small hidden kingdom underground. This kingdom was almost impossible for anyone to reach, and he filled it with powerful women whose mission was to protect the earth from Ares and evil. These women were called the Amazons, and they lived on an island with no men. On this island, there was only one child, named Diana, who was the daughter of the Amazon queen. Diana often skipped her lessons to watch the Amazons train for battle. She goes to her aunt, who was in charge of training the army, and asked her to train her in sword fighting. But her aunt knew that the queen, Diana's mother, wouldn't approve of this because she wanted Diana to focus on her studies. The queen believed Diana was still a child and deserved to live her childhood away from war. However, her aunt saw Diana's passion and bravery, and she knew that Diana had a love for fighting, so she decided to train her in secret. Every day, Diana waits for her mother to fall asleep and then sneak off to her aunt to train. Over the years, Diana grew stronger and continued to train with her aunt. But one day, her mother caught them. The queen was furious at her sister for disobeying her orders and teaching Diana how to fight. They argued, but the aunt explained that Diana was the only one capable of facing Ares because she had a true, hidden power. The aunt told the queen that the more Diana trained, the more she would protect them all, and that this strength would make the Amazons even more powerful. The queen, moved by her sister's words, started crying and confessed that she had forbidden Diana from training because she was her only daughter. But her sister reassured her not to worry and convinced her to allow Diana to continue training. The queen finally agreed, and her sister continued teaching Diana the most advanced combat techniques. As the years pass, Diana grows up and becomes an exceptionally skilled warrior. During one of her training sessions with her aunt, Diana unexpectedly discovers a hidden power within her, defeating her aunt in battle. She is shocked by her newfound strength, and the Amazons begin to fear her. Diana feels immense guilt for unintentionally hurting her aunt and starts crying. One day, while walking near the beach, Diana is surprised to see a plane crash into the sea. Inside the plane is a pilot named Steve, who begins to drown. Without hesitation, Diana dives into the water and saves him. Steve is a soldier working for British intelligence. After she rescues him, Diana asks him what kind of creature he is, as she has never seen a man before and knows nothing about them. Steve is confused by her question, but before they can talk further, they notice German forces invading the island. The Germans had been chasing Steve by sea. A battle breaks out between the Amazons and the German army. The Amazons, armed with traditional weapons like bows and swords, face the Germans, who have modern firearms and cannons. Despite the advanced weapons of the Germans, the Amazons manage to defeat them, but many Amazons lose their lives in the process. At one point, a bullet is fired at Diana, but her aunt steps in to protect her, taking the bullet instead. Her aunt dies from the wound, leaving Diana devastated. Fueled by anger, Diana picks up her sword, determined to fight. She defends Steve and takes him to the Amazons' court, where he is interrogated with the lasso of truth. This magical rope compels anyone bound by it to speak the truth, and if they lie, they experience an intense electric shock. Steve, knowing he can't lie, reveals his true identity as a spy working for the British Army. He explains that he infiltrated the German army disguised as a pilot to gather information about their weapons. During this mission, Steve managed to steal a book that contained instructions for creating gas weapons capable of destroying entire cities. However, a German doctor, who was in charge of developing these weapons, noticed Steve's actions and ordered his capture. Steve narrowly escaped by stealing a plane and blowing up several of the German weapons factories, but the explosions damaged his plane, causing it to crash into the sea, where Diana found him. Steve shares all of this information with the Amazons, explaining that the war has caused immense suffering, especially for women and children. Hearing about the destruction caused by war deeply affects Diana, and she decides that she must leave the island to save humanity from the darkness that has overtaken it. She believes that Ares, the god of war, is behind all of the chaos and has corrupted the earth. Diana tells her mother that she wants to leave the island to defeat Ares and save humanity from evil. Her mother warns her that Steve's story may just be a fantasy and that humans are inherently corrupt and violent. But Diana, confident in her mission, insists that she must protect the world as an Amazon. Her mother is heartbroken and reluctant to let her go, but eventually she gives in and allows Diana to leave with Steve. As they prepare to leave the island, Steve asks Diana about the location of the island, but she doesn't understand his question because she has no knowledge of the outside world. When Diana sees Steve's watch, she asks him what it is, and he explains that it's a device that helps him keep track of time and schedule his activities, including when to eat. Diana is amazed and finds it hard to believe that such a small object can control a person's life, and she mocks it. Steve then asks Diana when she plans to leave the island, and she tells him that she won't leave unless she goes with him to defeat the evil that plagues the earth. Steve laughs, not believing her, because he thinks it's impossible for her to stop the war or defeat such powerful enemies on her own. He tells her that he doesn't have time to listen to her stories, as his main priority is to deliver the stolen book to his commander. Indeed, the day comes when Diana is about to leave. The queen stops her daughter and tells her that she won't stop her, but she warns her about humans one last time, as they don't deserve to be sacrificed for. If she leaves the island, she can't return again. Diana promises her that she'll rid humanity of evil and of Ares. Then, she takes the sword, which is said to be capable of killing Ares, and leaves the island. When they arrive in the city, Steve tells her that he must deliver the book to his commander, but Diana is focused on finding the war to save humanity. She asks Steve where the war is and if he's lying to her. Meanwhile, people around them are staring at Diana because of her strange clothing. Steve asks his assistant to help her change her clothes and get her something more suitable. Steve's assistant shows Diana several outfits, but Diana dislikes all of them since she wouldn't be able to fight in them and doesn't know how to walk in such clothing. Eventually, she finds an outfit resembling a detective's attire and decides to wear it, but she insists on keeping her sword ready for battle. Steve and his assistant try to convince her that walking around with a sword in public would attract too much attention. They manage to convince her to hand over the sword and shield, promising to keep them safe, as these weapons are very important to her. While they are walking, they realize that they are being watched by German forces. Steve decides to take a different route, but the Germans ambush them and open fire. Diana quickly defends herself, and Steve is shocked by her strength. Diana fights the Germans and kills one of them, while the others flee in fear. Afterward, Steve and Diana go to see the commander, who is in the middle of a meeting. However, Diana isn't allowed inside because the meeting is for male officers only. Once the meeting ends, Steve presents the book to the commander, but the commander doesn't give it much importance, as he doesn't know what's in it. During the meeting, the leaders had agreed on a ceasefire with the Germans, so the commander wasn't concerned about the book. Steve tries to convince the commander of the importance of the book, and eventually, the commander agrees and starts reading it. However, the book is encrypted and written in Sumerian, a language that no one present can understand. But Diana, being an Amazon, is fluent in over 100 ancient languages, including Sumerian and Ottoman. She begins to read the book and explains that it contains instructions for making hydrogen-based gas weapons. These weapons are so deadly that they can kill people even if they are wearing gas masks, as the masks aren't designed to withstand this kind of gas. Steve tries to convince the commanders to send forces to locate the German gas factories, but his request is denied because the Germans had already signed a peace treaty. However, one of the officers interrupts and says that soldiers are meant to fight and die, and they have no right to question the state's decisions. Diana is outraged by this statement and angrily tells him that leaders send soldiers to fight while they sit on their thrones giving orders. Steve quickly pulls her outside to avoid causing more trouble. Once outside, Diana tells him that she came to fight and save humanity from injustice, and that she won't stay silent in the face of oppression. Steve assures her that they'll go to war, but unofficially. Diana questions how he plans to start a war without informing the authorities, accusing him of lying to her, just as he lied to the commanders. Steve pulls out the lasso of truth and confesses all of his intentions. Since the lasso doesn't shock him, Diana realizes he's telling the truth. Steve then understands that they need more men to join the fight, so he goes to his friend and asks for help. Suddenly, a senior officer shows up and offers his troops to support them in the mission. However, the German forces catch wind of their plan, and the German commander kills the officer accused of stealing the book, making him an example to ensure no one else betrays the German army. Later, the commander goes to the doctor, who seems frustrated with her progress. He reassures her, saying that he trusts in her abilities. Her potential goes beyond just the book. This encouragement excites her, and she gives him a special formula she created to grant him immense power. After taking the dose, the commander feels a tremendous surge of strength, enough to crush a gun in his hands. Suddenly, the doctor finds the paper with the gas formula that can dissolve gas masks. She tests it, and indeed, the gas dissolves the mask, making the commander extremely happy, as he believes this will give him control over the world. During this time, the commander meets with the leaders who are considering signing a peace treaty between Germany and Britain. He releases the gas among them, and while some try to put on gas masks, the masks prove useless, melting in the gas, and everyone dies. Meanwhile, Steve and Diana head to the front lines of the war. Diana is devastated by the sight of the wounded and dead due to the war. She asks Steve about the area, and he tells her that it was a British village, but the Germans had taken control of it. When they reach the battlefield, Diana decides to fight on her own. She takes control of the battleground, surprising all the soldiers with her strength. They become inspired and join her in battle, distracting the enemy. After a long fight, Diana manages to defeat the Germans and liberate the village. A photographer comes to capture the moment, and Diana is photographed with Steve and the other soldiers. Steve's assistant contacts them, informing them about a party being held by the German commander. Steve proposes to continue the war in order to kill the commander, as he believes the German leader is responsible for the atrocities. Diana thinks that this commander is Ares, the god of war and the cause of all the suffering. They form a plan to infiltrate the party by disguising themselves. At the party, Steve spots the doctor and tries to extract information from her. Suddenly, they hear the sound of artillery, realizing that the Germans have fired gas at the recently liberated village. The gas kills all the soldiers, women, and children, leaving Diana heartbroken. She blames herself, believing that her inaction caused the massacre. Enraged, she sets off to kill the commander. After a fierce battle with the commander, he realizes that Diana is too powerful and takes another dose of the strength formula. Empowered once again, he attacks her. Despite his newfound strength, Diana overpowers him and kills him, thinking she has ended the war. However, to her shock, the fighting continues, and she realizes that the man she killed wasn't Ares. Suddenly, one of the leaders reveals himself to be Ares. He tells Diana that he's not the one directly causing the war, but he merely gives humans the tools and inspiration to destroy themselves. Infuriated, Diana attacks him with her sword, but the sword disintegrates upon impact. Ares reveals to her that she's the daughter of Zeus, and that's why she possesses powers beyond those of the other Amazons. The battle between them intensifies, and Diana tries to bind Ares with the lasso of truth, but he easily escapes, as he is far stronger than her. He hits her with a powerful bolt of lightning, causing a massive explosion. The blast leaves Diana dazed and unable to hear anything. Steve arrives to help her and tries to talk to her, but she can't hear his words. Steve then boards a plane loaded with hydrogen gas and decides to sacrifice himself to save humanity. He flies the plane far away and detonates it, killing himself in the process. Diana is devastated by Steve's death. Overcome with rage and grief, she unleashes her full power, destroying everything in her path. In the end, she manages to kill Ares. With Ares' death, the war ends, and peace returns to the world, as the source of all the destruction is eliminated. Years later, Diana is working in the civilian sector. But one day, a group of heroes who save the world sends her a message, inviting her to join their team. They also send her a photo of herself with Steve and the other soldiers taken during the liberation of the village. Knowing that she possesses great strength, Diana agrees to join them. The movie ends. If you liked the video, subscribe to the channel and activate the notification to receive new videos.